Hey everyone, Mini Pika here, and let's let's go over a few things here real quick. First thing is how why won't you flip? I want you to go like this. No, dude, what the fuck? Where is it? This. Look, all right. First of all, let's talk about phasmophobia and how much harassment and how much negativity it has been given over the 6 years that this game has been in early access. I understand criticism. I understand harassment. I also understand good criticism and bad criticism at the same time. There has been a lot of good criticism that has been given to these developers, but there's also been a lot of negative criticisms that they have been given, even though that they have told us that they are working on it. And for us to tell them without saying it from every stream we do, every gameplay we do, every short that we do, without verbally saying it, by our posture, by our facial expression, by how we play it, we are basically telling them, hurry the fuck up and get it done. Now, as an average Joe that plays this game, I don't believe that it is respectful for us to rush a developer in the middle of a game that they have a dream that they are trying to complete. It is true that they do give us a bug Discord where we can let them know that there are bugs. Now, a lot of us are abusing this system and using it for things that are outside of the realm of what this is supposed to be meant for. The reason why they had this is for a game breaking bug. It's not meant for the littlest, tiniest, minuscule fucking shit that every game goes for. If you are, and I'm saying this, if you are using this chat to basically harass kinetic games, phasmophobia, and DK because something is so tiny and it's pissing you off that you believe there's a game breaking bug and it's not, that is a wrong use case for this chat. This chat is not meant for us to harass the developers because something is not working the way that we want it to work. You got to keep in mind, it doesn't matter what we want it to work. It's not our game. It is their game. For us to want the game to work the way that we want it to work, that is not okay. Because it is not our dream, it is not our development, and it is not our game. It is Kinetic Games' game. And they want it to work in a certain way that they want it to work. Criticism is okay up to a certain point. But after a certain point, it can go from criticism to harassment to just plainly just hurtful. And we have gone from that. You guys may not realize this, but when originally the player update came out, we were so assholey to Kinetic Games that I'm pretty sure at some point they were about ready to give up on this game because of how much of an assholes us as a community was being to Kinetic Games. You guys may not realize this, but I have watched a lot of streams, a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of TikTok streams, and a lot of shorts. And I have compiled from everything that I have watched that there was not one piece of constructive criticism in that video. All that were in those videos was us being whiny bitches that the game wasn't working the way that we wanted it to work. Who cares that we had two left feet? Who cares if we were fucking shaking like a goddamn hot dog in a hot dog factory with the goddamn equipment? Who cares if the equipment's like 3, 4, 5 feet away from your face? Did it work? Was it still playable? Was it still operational? Don't answer that. The answer is yes. It was still very playable. But as us for communities, because it was something that we didn't like to see, we had to make a developer's life a living fucking hell. For as long as it took them to actually release and fix these bugs, which didn't take them long because you made them feel like pieces of shit that something squeaked through and they were proud. You got to keep in mind when they released this, they felt so good that they accomplished something and they were so happy. But the minute that we had these critiquing graphics people and they're so used to this eye candy and shit like this, when they saw this, it was like we turned into rabid animals and we ripped up one side of them and down the other. Their excitement when they felt good that they released something, and I hate to tell you, I'm pretty sure they knew that it didn't. I'm pretty sure they knew that there was a few things in this update that weren't the way that they were supposed to be. But the majority of the update was what they wanted it to be. And for us to critique it the way that we did, and like I said before, you may not realize this. As humans, we don't realize the criticism that we give people until it's too late. And that is something as humans and as a community, we need to realize that it's okay to give constructive criticism. It's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to be mad. But you can do it in a constructive way. For you to harass them because it was so broken, and it wasn't that so broken. It was because we had a lot of people in this community that is so used to that eye candy, crisp image, everything working like intentionally, nothing wrong, no bugs. And then when they saw something that didn't quite look right, it was like a switch went off. And it just fucking fell apart. Like within like 2, 3 seconds of discovery. There was people like, oh, we had two left feet. Oh, equipment are jittery, or shit's not rendering correctly, or this was happening. And I go back to defend them. You gotta keep in mind, it is early access. This shit is prone to happen. And you gotta keep in mind, Unity is an old game API engine. It is not like Unreal Engine. It is not modern. There are limitations to the hardware that you can use to make your game run well. They are on Unity 5. It is a decade old game engine. And the limitations to that game engine are so fine to the point if you try to use so high of textures and stuff, you are gonna have texture splitting, not responsiveness, and shit not working as intended for it to work. You got to keep in mind, in the development of a game, there are gonna be a lot of bugs, glitches, and hitches and stutters in this game, in games in general when they're first developed, because there could be a line of code that is not communicating properly the way that it should be communicating. And this player update, there was multiple lines of code. And I'm not a coder whatsoever. But in this update, there was multiple lines of codes that were not correctly identifying themselves and they were hitting walls of limitation to where that there was not enough resources for them to actually render properly. And what that caused was the two left feet, a lot of the jittering, because you got to remember, this player update added so much detail to the point that the game was not rendering the player models properly at all. Some player models were invisible, some player models were see-through, some player models weren't even actually there. This was because of the limitation of the hardware. Not the hardware, because the hardware is there. The hardware is capable of rendering this. But the limitations of the game engine. And a lot of people say, why don't Kinetic Games put Phasmophobia in Unreal Engine 5? And here's my answer. Unreal Engine 5 is so very unstable and so poorly optimized that you think that it is bad now. Just think about how worse it would be in Unreal Engine. It would be a shit show. Like, I mean, a complete shit show. It wouldn't be good. Yes, it may also be an issue that they've been sitting on Unity 5 for quite a while. But they are going to change in October. They're going to Unity 6. And that will give them, one, better performance, two, a lot more resources that they can allocate to the game, and three, a whole horizon of different assets that they can put in the game. Yes, there was a while there where certain items in the game were spawning in places where they weren't supposed to spawn. Not a big deal. Shit happens. We're human. We're not perfect. We're gonna fuck up somewhere. They didn't fuck up that bad. We just made it out to seem like it was a lot worse than it really needed to be. And I know when people see this, they're gonna argue and they're gonna be bitchy and they're gonna be argumentative. Don't. Because all that proves is that you're a hypocrite and you know that it's true. Because when we have that snappy reaction, it's because we are not willing to accept the reality that we do have this. Psychologically, when you snap back, it is because of a defense mechanism to defend yourself in a situation where you know that you were wrong and the developer was right, but you don't want to prove it because you have a big ego. It is okay if you snap back, but it really does prove that you like to be an ass. We're all asses. We're all assholes. It's okay. But the thing is, there's a time and a place for that. And critiquing somebody's dream just because you don't like it and it's not working the way that you want it to, that is a piss poor. That is, if you don't like the way, and this is a simple way that we can put it. If the game's not the way that you want it, well, buddy, I guess the game is not meant for you and you should not be playing it. You want to know how all this could have been avoided in the first place? Those people that really like high-end gaming and they see a game that's on Unity and they were expecting more out of the game and they didn't get it. Well, there's a simple answer for that. Hey, buddy, I'm speaking to you guys, the ones behind the screen, the ones that like the nice shiny games, built on a nice engine, 4K textures, next gen feel. I hate to burst your bubble. This game will never get there. This game is an indie horror game. Indie games are built in a sense of having basic graphics, but with a realism look of a ghost hunting game. This is an indie horror game. This is not a professional horror game. This is an indie title. Indie titles are going to run like shit, look like shit, and they're going to be shit. But it all depends on if the developer can make it look like a pristine, polished turd and run really well. That's ultimately up to developers. This title, and I'll go back and say it, and I know I'm a broken record, Phasmophobia is an indie horror game. And that's what it was developed to be, is an indie horror game. And if you don't know anything about an indie game, is one, they never run smooth. Two, they have a lot of problems with them. And three, they can be fun. You just gotta look past the shitty qualities that they have. And a lot of the time, the people that are critiquing these games are the people that have the most high end hardware, and they think that there is something wrong with their hardware, when in reality, it's the game that is poorly optimized to begin with. I will take a quick and tell you that there is one game. It doesn't matter what your hardware is, what your requirements are, and if you have the over specs, it is Late Night Deadline. This game, and I'm not trying to throw the developer under the bus because the first Late Night ran perfectly, but one Late Night Deadline runs like shit across any hardware configuration. That is what's called a poor performance game. Phasmophobia is not poorly optimized. It is as optimized as it can get with the hardware limitations and engine that it can have. You want to know why RTX and DLSS is not in Phasmophobia, even though it is fully capable, and because it's within Unity? Is because for the game developers, they want their game to be open source in a way that people can use FSAR, which is NVIDIA's upscale super sampling deep learning scaling. It's an open source, which is available on AMD, NVIDIA, and Intel GPUs, so that the whole trio can use it. DLSS is only available for NVIDIA GPUs. That is why it's not there. They're trying to make the game as open as friendly for people to have a good experience. They don't want to create a game where you have to have this certain graphics card to be able to use the improved performance. They don't want to do that. That's why you can use on Call of Duty FSAR, XXE, which is the upscale for Intel, on AMD or Nvidia, because Intel's like, I don't mind sharing my upscaling with you as long as our player base can have a good enjoyment of the game. That is the same mentality of AMD. You can use my FSAR because it's in the game, because I want every player to have a good experience. DLSS is only handicapped to NVIDIA because it's NVIDIA. I'm going on right here. We got to keep in mind as gamers that when it comes down to it, how a game is produced and how a game is ran is out of our control, like always. And like I said, it is okay to give criticism where criticism is due, but there is a thing of overdoing it. And let's be honest, we have overdone it. We have. Phasmophobia feels like right now that they have lost all trust with their community. And I'm here to say, if the Darko or whatever his name is that is watching here that is in phasmophobia, you haven't lost our trust. You haven't lost your community. This is from me and everybody watching it, because everybody that is not watching it or have watched it or shit like this are too hard-headed, developers of phasmophobia. You haven't lost our trust. We over exaggerated by giving you criticism that was unnecessary. We were poking and prodding little shit that is like very unnoticeable unless you're actually fucking looking for it, critiquing. And there's nothing to apologize. You're all good. You're all good. We're all good. Um, like I said, I'm apologizing for everybody because a lot of people don't want to apologize for shit that they didn't do, even though that they did do shit. So I'm being a bigger man for everybody here, Kinetic Games. We're sorry. Um, we're sorry for how much shit that we've given your player model update, and for that we are sincerely sorry. And for that, I feel for everybody that we should be ashamed of how much stress and how much emotional state that we put in you guys from into. And I'm sorry. We're sorry. And I hope you can accept the apology from the community, even though a lot of us didn't really apologize and we're really headstrong. But we are actually sorry. We didn't mean for it to go the way that it actually did, and to where you yourselves had to apologize for a game that is yours. We are sorry. As always, take care.